guys. I have a question. Have you ever felt like you were at the very end of your rope, kind of like there's so much going on inside of you that you just do not know where to turn, who to turn to, and feel really, really alone? This podcast today for me is about sharing with you how to take chicken shit and turn it into chicken salad, and how to not feel so crazy in your inner world and in the way that you experience life on the inside while you're looking on the outside. I think our world is desperate and crying out for authenticity, for vulnerability, for truth. And anyone could look at my life on the outside and be like, wow, holy shit, what a great life. You know, this woman has a beautiful house. She has nice cars. She has nice, kids. She's successful. Her business just keeps growing. She seems to have it all together. She's always put together. She's dressed nicely. All of these different things you could look at. She has this nice luxury condo in a resort community. But I'm going to tell you something right now. The truth is that there's two kinds of people on this earth. There's the people who are in need and know it, and there are people who are in need and don't know it. And I happen to be one of the people that's in need and knows it. I know that I'm a human being. I know that at any moment I can make a mistake, that at any moment I can let someone down. I know that I have had to fight for every inch of success that I have already gained in my life, and that there are days that I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue being successful, and I feel like a fraud. And what I have found in my life is that the people that I connect most with are the people who are honest with themselves and honest with others. And they don't pretend to be more than they are. And I can tell you that every one of us has an undeniable spark of joy and passion and a purpose inside of us. And most of us have been conditioned to ignore it. Most of us have been conditioned to feel like shit, really, if you want to know the truth, because it is very, very hard to feel great when you're not aligned with the part of you that's desperate to mean more, to do more, to say more, to have more, to experience life to its fullest. This morning I was in the shower and just all this stuff was coming to me, as it does when you're in the shower. And this is a more meaningful podcast to me because I'm in a vulnerable state in my life right now. And as I'm succeeding on the outside world, on the inside world, there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of feelings, and there's a lot of self-talk that has harmed me. And what I have found is that there are simple ways to create the life that you want. And we need to harness that and understand the very first step to being able to harness the power that's inside of us is to be able to face the truth. And the truth is that we are human beings, that we are beings that are inside of a body that has an operating system, and our body has been through a variety of circumstances. Some are great and some are really, really hard. Me personally, I have had a lot of trauma and tragedy throughout my life, as from the time I'm a very young girl. And it has created meaning in my life, and it has taught me incredible things, and it has also really had me go down the wrong path because of the way I believed about myself. That's one of the reasons why I have written my book. My book is, and my desire is, when it comes to my book that's going to come out, I have no expectation to make money from this book, to have any major thing happen for me from this book. This book is just something that I believe is my obligation to be able to share with people how I have repeatedly climbed out of times of incredible despair and feeling like there's no way out, and feeling badly about myself or feeling badly about life in general. And I've climbed out of those circumstances and been able to be triumphant. And the only way I was able to do this was through like a few things that I just, over time learned to do through trial and error. And I put it down in my book. I'm not saying that my book is the greatest book in the world, but what my book does have is the truth. And nothing changes until it becomes what it is. So what I want to say to you guys is that when you're having any kind of an emotionally hard day, when you're having anything kick up for you, what you want to ask yourself is, what is it that's happening inside of me at this moment? What thoughts are running on a loop inside of me that are contributing to the way that I'm feeling right now? How are they directing me? What feelings am I feeling that I have felt the most in my life? What core belief is in charge of this emotional experience that I'm having? And usually what I will find is that if I feel anxiety, it's because somehow I feel threatened. Somehow I feel less than. Somehow I feel like my personhood is threatened. But when I really, really look inside and I'm able to share that with someone else, and someone else, they say it takes two to tell the truth. We can tell anybody what to do. And I have to be honest, I'm a little bit sick and tired of it, because believe me, I know every strategy, every tool, every, time blocking, and how to manage our schedules, and how to write down our goals and do all the different incredible things, journaling. There's so many external wonderful tools that we have, but it is not possible to advance further than the behavior we're doing until we stop and we're awake and aware in the now, until we stop and we ask the question, what is it that is fueling this repeated experience in my life? Until I know that, I cannot change. I can change for a period of time. I can change for, there's so many different things we can do, but, you hear it in all different ways. Psycho-cybernetics, where that we have a thermostat, and that thermostat is set at the level that our core beliefs will allow us to go to. And anytime we move higher or lower in that thermostat, our core belief will tell us this is the level you can get to. And you must come back to that level if you do not change your core belief or your setting in your body. So very often I will find myself returning to this feeling of being less than, this feeling of being discombobulated, this feeling of being this or that. But when I really look at my outcomes, when I really look at externally how I'm performing and that things are really advancing, and then I look at the chaotic feeling inside, I know that there's a part of me that wants to draw me back to an old belief about myself. And very often we'll have, very kind people who want to say, well, just do this or just do that. But the truth is that the way out of an emotionally driven behavior, a way out of it is to return to that emotional part of yourself, and is to have a connection with that emotional part of yourself and be able to sit and reframe and re-identify what is the belief that you're having right now that's bringing you back to this old pattern. And when you do that and you reconnect with yourself, forever ago, right now they're talking a lot about something called internal family systems. And it's like very often, I've been in the field of psychology for so long that I see these trends in the conversation of the new modality that's being used. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's a wonderful modality, but what it was forever ago was it's, the inner child, that we all have different parts of ourselves at different age levels. And that inner child It needs reparenting, and our source, our being, who we are inside of ourselves, the real us, needs to reparent that part of ourselves that feels less than, that feels broken, that feels scared, that feels angry. And remembering also, anger is always a secondary emotion, and fear is usually the driving factor under most things. Most human beings are afraid. Most human beings are finding ways to cover fear instead of going directly to the part of them that's afraid and helping that part of them to grow and to advance and to actually grow in the context of love, because that's really the context that all of us are thriving in and able to grow in. So what I want to say to you guys, I kind of got a little lost out of the thing. I wrote a bunch of notes down in the shower. And one of the things is, I wrote here is that we are shamed into thinking that we have to be like everyone else. We're shamed away from our rarity. We're shamed away from not being like-minded. We gravitate towards groups of people so we can, and we try to be like them in order to not feel so alone and different. But by the very nature of who we are, we're all snowflakes. We're meant to be different. We're meant to make our mark on the world that comes in a unique package that isn't like everyone else. And when we deny that part of ourselves, what we're doing is we're lying. We're lying in order to belong. We're lying to our purpose. We're disaligned with what is really our spark and our life inside. So I want to encourage anyone who's having a really hard time, who finds themselves, in these tumultuous mind games or emotional games that are happening inside of them. They don't know what to do. I mean, I have found myself there where I'm like, who can I tell this to? Who can I tell that I want to rip that person's head off? Who can I say that I'm having an overreaction here internally while the external looks great? Who can I talk to about this? And I think that it really makes a difference when we can be the people that the people can talk to, when we can be the one that gets it. There is no one on this earth who does not struggle at some time or another with an emotional turmoil storm inside. There is no one who does not struggle with thought distortions. There is no one who has not developed a belief system that has harmed them. There is no one who is doing this thing 100%. If you follow anyone, make sure you follow somebody who's honest about the reality of life. Because when we put people on a pedestal and people are in this role of like guru or any of that, we lose sight of the collective truth that we all are human beings, that we all have hard days, that we all need someone to just say, hey, you know what? I get it. I've been there. And you know what? This day has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And tomorrow morning, there's new mercy and loving kindness. And sometimes things just look a little bit better the next day. And when someone is there to hear that, when someone is there to understand what you're feeling, the feeling doesn't have to continue. And that's what I want you to kind of pull away from this, is that there is something about just knowing the truth. The truth is the pathway to all freedom. When we can share the truth, it takes two to tell the truth. So that's why when you share with someone else and you say, listen, I'm having these crazy thoughts, or, hey, you know what? I don't really think I can do this. I don't really think I can get this far in life. Hey, you know what? I think I'm a fraud. Hey, you know what? I feel really depressed. Hey, you know what? I just yelled at my kid. Hey, you know what? Everything that I stand for, I'm not today. Think of it this way. And I tell everybody this, that when we show up in our best selves, if you consider for a moment, what is your best self? I know for me, when I show up in my best self, I'm confident, I'm loving. The people around me are valuable to me. When I show up in my best self, I feel I don't need a ton. What I want to give. When I show up in my best self, I feel like I can walk in any room. When I show up in my worst self, my eyes are down. I feel insecure. I don't trust how you feel about me. When I come in as my worst self or in a bad place, and I'm not in my real me, I feel judgmental and uncertain. So what I want to pose to you, most people believe that when they show up in their worst self, that is their true identity, that's the thing that they're covering up and hiding from everybody else. Well, I'm going to tell you something. It's not true. What's true is that is when we show up in our survival mode. That's when we show up in our coping skills. When we show up defensive, we're not in our true self. When we show up bitter or insecure or frightened or like not trying new things, we're not in our best self. We are not even in the reality of who we really are. What we're doing is we're in survival mode and in high stress mode. But when we show up happy and filled with love, that's us. That's our identity. When we show up creatively and knowing that I'm going to make this the best day ever. When we show up confidently, when you're confident, do you know that that's the real you? Because you're in touch with, and I'm not talking about cocky, because when somebody shows up cocky, when somebody shows up in an arrogant way, when somebody shows up in a way that they have to, they have to communicate to you their greatness, they have to show it to you somehow, that's a sign of insecurity. When people show up and they genuinely are interested in you, it's because they feel confident in themselves. So the goal here is to be able to upgrade the people in your life. Be with people who have earned the right to hear and see your messiness. The people who are not going to tell you that there's something dreadfully wrong with you if you're having a hard period of time in your life, or if you're not in your best self. The people who will remind you, hey, you know what? This is, I know who you are. And I know what you're capable of. And this must be a hard time for you because somehow I see that you're not gelling or whatever. Somebody who's there to hear you just get it out. It takes two to tell the truth. I want you guys to know that there is power in connection, in unity, and in humility, and owning our humanness. How come we have to be perfect? Where did we learn that? We live in a mistake-averse society, that if we don't just get this thing right or that thing right, or if we forget something, or if we don't do this in this, exact way, somehow we're failing. No, how about a lot of people who are doing things like that? It's because they're spending so much, giving so much, that they may have missed this over here. It doesn't mean that they're not valuable or they haven't done the thing that you expect them to do. So what I want to just encourage you guys to do is have grace for other people, have grace for yourself, try to understand the larger picture. Most people, when you see them and you have an interaction with them, you're not really seeing them. And I hate to break it to you, but if you haven't had an intimate conversation about any of their uncertainties of that week, or the things that felt frightening, or the things that didn't go well for them, if you're not hearing that, if that isn't in the conversation, and I'm not saying it should be in every conversation because it's just not meant to, some people don't deserve to hear it, honestly. But when you share, you have people in your life where their difficulties, and where they didn't do well that week, and you also know what's great about them. And you can be the one who says, hey, you're the best. And you know what? I see how that was hard for you this week. You know what? That is where we can add value. That's where we can extend love. I can tell you guys this. This last year for me, it has been treacherous for me. So, and I'm not going to let myself cry, but because then I won't stop. But this year has been a long, it's been a fight for me. That fight has taught me so much. It's taught me about who belongs in my life and who doesn't. It's taught me how to keep getting up on days that are impossible. It's taught me that other people that you see out on the street or wherever they are, when they're making repeated mistakes or they're irritable or whatever's happening, it teaches you when you're going through a hard time. It teaches you to see people behind the behavior. It teaches you to understand that behind what you're seeing on the surface, there's a whole other life. There's a life that you haven't ever known. And what I can tell you is that when my husband died, it was like my world went off its axis. Nothing made sense. Nothing. And what I want you to understand is that there are people out there who have different things that have made their world go off its axis. And they're going to fail you because they're showing up in the best possible way that they can. So what I want you to understand, I can't believe I'm crying. Well, I can believe. I said I was going to be vulnerable today, and I am. The main thing to get is that from my experience, I'm being open with you, that I have been disoriented for a year, which is a very short time considering the tragic loss that I had. And some days are fantastic and other days are not. And some days I show up like a superstar, and other days I don't know how to write my name down on a calendar or organize my thoughts. And that's real. And I also know that, and I also have kids who repeatedly have to be heard and seen and taken care of because they're in their grief as well. So when you're considering thinking that you know more or being judgmental or considering that, you know, maybe, just maybe I'm better than that person, I want you to really think about that you don't really know them, that you don't really know the full story. And, you know, we see all memes like that. No one really knows anybody's full story. No one really knows what happened before they left the house. You know, like there's a few things that happened during my week, well, this month actually, where I had to kind of change things, or, you know, maybe I seem discombobulated, but behind the scenes, no one knows that my two middle sons, one of their very, very best friends was killed in a car accident. And I have to kind of help to regroup and help my family to feel better and to like go back in our family cave and really prioritize what is more important than my calendar, what is more important than the thousands of people that we work on helping and saving at Logger Counseling Services. Sometimes the role model is the person who's willing to cancel an appointment, is the person who's willing to drop everything for their family, because that is more important. I had to cancel, not go to a very important event for me. And it was with Emily Frasillo, and it was with Women in Business. And I just shout out to that woman and to all the women there. They could not have been more supportive. And I have found this to be a year of dropping the ball. I've had a year of dropping the ball. But if all I do is drop the ball after losing the most important person in my life, and my children too, going through such unbelievable grief, dropping the ball is a normal thing. And these women just got it. You know, they're moms, and they're just like, listen, they couldn't even respect me if I, did the right thing and went to the event. No, because that wouldn't be the right thing. Because the right thing is to be there for my boys who just lost, CJ, and now they just lost one of their dearest friends, tragically, suddenly. One day he's there, next day he's not. So as a mom, what do you do? So, and every day is similar to that. You have to make decisions, and you have to decide who you're going to please. Are you going to please the reputation that people expect of you, or this high level profile way that you're supposed to act? Well, I've never ascribed to that. I think it's a bunch of bullshit, honestly. I think it's really pretty cool to be a person who can kick ass every day. I get up and I fucking make shit happen. And at the same time, I'm the same person who can drop a ball because somebody else and something else is much, much more important at that moment. And I only gather with and keep people in my life who understand that concept. So I wonder if this is anything that, I know people needed to hear this today. I know that, over this last couple of weeks, I've been in a lot of personal turmoil, and it's been really hard for me to show up and not show up well. But what I have done is I do show up. I show up and I do the very, very best I can. So I want to encourage anybody who's having a hard time out there. I'm just giving it real today. I don't care anymore what people think, because when you get to the end of yourself, you can come on a podcast, you can cry. You can cry like you're inside a bedroom with your best friend, just telling them that all you want around you is people who understand, and not people who are going to bark at you. So I am grateful because of the people that I do have in my life are that way. I have the best people that support me and are there for me. And I want that for you. And I came on this podcast today, not so much to vent, because believe me, this is the last thing I feel like doing right now. I came on here because I know that over this last week, I needed to hear somebody be real for me. I needed to see someone who I perceived as successful to get somewhere and to say something that made me not feel crazy. And one of the people who has done that for me repeatedly in my life is Ed Milet. And I shout out to him for that, because he has shown up in different times, he's on you see him everywhere, and he's motivational, and he's a multi-millionaire, and he's successful in every way, and blah, blah, blah. And I see him get on and share his heart at times where tears are in his eyes, where he can't say a word. And you know what? More than any of the motivation that he has ever given me, that has been the thing that's really made me feel good, because it's made me not feel crazy, that I really don't feel like I have to be so hard on myself and striving so hard to believe that I can never be, as great as Ed, or I can never be as great as these people who are so structured and have everything together. You know what? If I can be for you today a person who tells you that you can do it, even when you're not doing it, who tells you that when you're falling down and you don't know what the hell to do, and you don't know how to think, and you don't know where to go, and you have no one to talk to, I can tell you that I have felt that too. And I could tell you that I snot and cry on camera, and that I don't have the best cameras, and that things fall down and I forget my wallet places, and all that kind of shit happens. And you know what? I want you to know that you can still succeed, that you can still have beautiful, incredible friendships, and you can still make a lot of money if you want to, and you could still proclaim your rarity, and you can still be special, and you could still be the best at something. And you know what? Other people can be the best at their thing too. And you can also suck, and you can also be great. And you can be afraid, and you can be courageous. And you can be brave, and you can also be a victim. And you can be angry, but then you can also be filled with so much love. Because this back and forth experience that I actually have had over the last couple of weeks has been something that's culminated in me coming on this video by myself and sharing my heart. That some days I just feel like I can't do it. And some days I'm like, how the hell did I make that mistake? Where was my mind? And the truth is that my mind has been a bomb dropped in my house on April 28th, 2021, and the smoke and the rubble are relentless. So I just wish you, whoever you are, I hope that if you're struggling, that you know that I struggle too. And I hope that if you need to know that you're not alone, I hope that I've made you feel that way. And if you feel that your mind is crazy and you don't know how to make it better, I feel that way too. But one thing I can tell you, and it's probably too long for this podcast, is that there are a few things that really have helped me. And one is that I must know the truth about what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. That's the first thing I need to know. So I need to be awake and aware in the now. I need to be awake, knowing that I'm thinking this and that I'm feeling this and that it doesn't have to be my reality. The next thing is I'm aware of, that means I have insight into what is fueling these thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, that they come from other times and places. They come from stored belief systems that are still running the show at different times in my life. And I need to know that. And then another thing I do is that I stay in the now, because all fear is future-based. All sadness, all insecurity is based in stories that were developed before the now. So it is very important that we take the now and we just bask in it, and we center ourselves and we communicate that I'm safe now, that, you know, that just because thoughts are running on a loop in my brain, these electrical impulses are not facts. Thoughts are just sounds. They're just something that we can observe. And then I tell myself, I get to create something different. As hard as it may seem, as difficult and as bleak as the world looks right now, I get to decide how I feel today, how I think today, and what I believe today. And the decision is a power move, because it creates something neurologically in us that changes our brain. And the fight is over. So the neuron clusters that are fighting and firing intermittently in regard to each decision, once we make a decision and then we marry that decision and stay with it, what ends up happening is we've decided to think, feel, and believe in the way that is aligned with where we want to go, and that we decide that, and then we decide to stay with it. Don't leave. How long do you wait for a baby to walk? Until it does. So you stay with that baby until it walks. So you stay with the concept that I will align myself with where I want to go. And I will do that in my thoughts. I will do that with my feelings, and I will do that with my belief system. And I can show you different ways to recreate your belief system, to rewire your brain, to face your fears, to understand that anything that hurts is not happening now, that we're experiencing a byproduct of historical pain, that we're experiencing a byproduct of a belief that's stored inside of us. And if we start to understand these things, I think that our society has been sold a bill of goods, that we've been taught that we have no power, that we have to accept our luck as it comes. These are your cards dealt. We have to do what everybody else is doing. We live in a mistake-averse society, so we have to be ashamed when we make a mistake. We have to always do it better, 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 or don't tell anyone. Lie to yourself, lie to everyone else. Don't change. Stay in the middle. Stay within the bell curve. Let me tell you something. Nothing wonderful happens in the center of a bell curve. So I'm encouraging you to step all the way outside of the bell curve, all the way to where the elite are. And where the elite are, it's not that they have tons of money and success and all these things. Yeah, they could have that. And one of the ways that you can have that is by being damn honest with yourself. Find yourself first, and stop beating up on that self. Stop beating up on that vulnerable part of you that you hide away from the world. Share it, and only share it with people who deserve you. You're sharing it. Now I'm sharing this with publicly. So it's a bold and brave move from me. And I'm going to pat myself on the back for it. And if I'm ridiculed for it, I'm still going to pat myself on the back for it, because I believe that it's my obligation to be a role model, to be a human being. And when I say role model, I don't mean better than at all. I mean, as somebody who's kind of in the public and who's a leader and who has counseling centers, who has tons of people who come here and look to me for some guidance. What I say to you guys is that I stand here as a role model of telling the truth, being yourself. Allow the mistakes, allow other people their mistakes. Don't ridicule yourself or anyone else, because as soon as you can align with and understand the fuel underneath, you can soar and you can shift the behaviors, you can shift the thoughts, the feelings, and all of that. The first step always is knowing the truth. So there's a lot of gurus out there who are going to coach you into submission. And I don't believe in that. I am very hard on my therapists who work for me. I tell them, we do not work with puppets. We work with people. And we do not force people into behaviors. We help them find out the core fuel, the core leader of their lives. And we help them find their spark and who they really are as a person, and the part of them that's hiding because they're afraid to proclaim their rarity. They're afraid to show their genius. They're afraid to know that their genius is all tangled up with their tears, with their fears, with their anger, and all of that. So we want to disentangle the genius in us, the love in us. We want to disentangle it from all of that other stuff that's protecting it, the fear, the anger, all of it. So I am here. Believe me, when I tell you this shit, guys, it is every part of me wants to stop the recording, package this up, and never show anyone. But I'm going to make a promise to you and to myself and to God that I'm going to take this, because maybe I don't look the way I want to look. Maybe I don't sound the way I want to sound. Maybe I sound too New York. That's another thing. You know how many videos I've shut down because I sounded too New York, or I didn't like the way my face looked, or my hair didn't look right, or I didn't look pretty enough, or I didn't sound good enough, or I fumbled over my words. Enough already. When are we going to clap for authenticity? When are we going to just let people be people and let ourselves be who we are and just enjoy one another and this small blip of the screen of the life that we have here? It's so short. And I just want to encourage anyone. I really seriously beg you, if you are having a hard time, whatever, I'm going to tell you right now, the last thing I'm looking for is business. We are so busy. So it's not like I'm saying, oh, come to us. No, I'm not here for marketing. I'm genuinely here because I know what pain is like. And I know the turmoil in most souls. I know the turmoil in most minds. I told you before, the only difference between people is those who know it and those who don't know it. Those are so defended and don't even know what's really going on inside of them. And then there's the people who know it. And very typically, the people who know what's going on inside of them, they may look a little messy. It's cool. So stick with the messies, stick with the ones who share their hearts. But you know what? They get up and kick ass every day. So what I want to ask you to do is, please, if you know someone who this is going to mean something to and it's going to change their life, please send it to them. I really have to ask you. I don't make money on these podcasts. I spend a lot of time doing them. I'm not looking to make money. I'm really looking to help people. So if you would, please share this with others. If you would also subscribe, it would really help me, because I can do more things with my podcast on YouTube. If I have more subscribers, it gives me more of like a platform to talk. So, and I can make changes on YouTube and stuff. So if you do that, I'd really appreciate it. Also, if you would make comments, if you would leave me some comments, or, on social media, you can find me at Alison Answers or Lager Counseling Services, and Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. I'm just starting up my TikTok, so if you could subscribe, I'd love it if you'd be my friend and just, check out what I do, the podcast and stuff. And if you DM me, and let me know, other people are in charge of my social media, but they will let me know if, there's somebody trying to reach out. Believe me, I've tried to reach out to people and, it's hard, people who are like really have a lot of messages, it's really hard to reach them. So I just want you to know, I have people who really look through my messages and stuff. So I just wish you the very best. Okay. All my love, my heart to you guys. And thank you so much for listening and sharing this time of vulnerability with me. Have a good day.